Welcome to another episode of the Admin Time on the Crawford Podcasting Network, not the Michigan Podcasting Network, the
Definitely
Crawford
not.
Podcasting Network, because it embraces both Michigan and Michigan State, the rivalry, the banter, whatever. Listen, we the last time we talked was about a week ago, and I think the only thing relevant that has happened since then, maybe former Michigan quarterback Shea Patterson going to the USFL. You want to just break that down for 20 minutes and get out? Or is that what you want to do or what?
That's a half-hour conversation right there. He wanted to go number one. He went to Michigan going, I'm gonna come out of here number one. He fulfilled his dream.
I'm the number one draft pick, Shea
Yeah.
Patterson. Anyway, I had to lead. I had to touch on that topic for a little jokey poo to some degree. So I don't know. We typically start with Michigan State, and then we'll do the Michigan thing. But both of them have their awkward discussion topics. We'll just say that.
Correct.
Michigan State has dropped 5 of 6. They've dropped 3 in a row. And I just saw a text that you sent me 3 games or 2 games, 3 or actually 3 games ago. And I do the same thing. So I'm not busting you on it. I say I do this thing all the time. Although I always, with frustrations watching my Wolverines, I'll say, I hate this effing team. Okay. I hate this. You know what I mean? You got a text. I hate this team. And this was, I think, after the Penn State game, which seems like eons ago, and they haven't won since then. And I got literally the same type of text from 4 or 5 other of my Michigan State friends. So at least you guys are all on the same page, as far as this team goes.
It's not the losing, it's how they're losing. It's the lack of toughness.
Yeah.
It's the lack of an identity that Izzo has built this program on for the last 20-some years, which is listen, I can take losing to good teams. I can take even occasionally losing to a bad team, but what I can't take is getting our asses kicked on the boards.
Yeah.
Lack of trying, no leadership, no spirit, and playing scared. And so I think those things all together is what has people like me really concerned moving forward. Is I just don't know how it's going to turn around this year. I mean, they were doing it with smoke and mirrors when Michigan State was 16-2 at one stage.
Yeah, well, and when you beat Michigan, it's on January 29th. I mean, January was a pretty decent month, and granted, let's be realistic. And I think we acknowledge this aspect though when they were like 5-0 or 5-1. I mean, they had somewhat of the cream puff part of the Big Ten schedule relative to the rest of the schedule that they had. And so, I mean, I think everybody kept that in perspective a little bit, but it's the optics that you're referring to. I've never the second half of the Iowa game. And this is the team at Michigan had just beaten that Carver Hawkeye the week before, which is an erratic team, Michigan. That optically, I just saw no resolve. I just saw a lack of effort. I saw a Gabe Brown shot that were just mechanically just hard to even watch. And then I saw the most startling thing was I saw a Tom Izzo looking like not getting upset, like it is what it is. He had a is what it is kind of is what it is kind of look to him.
Well, I think he realizes that getting mad and yelling at these guys isn't going to do anything. They need building up. But listen, the Iowa game, as bad as it was, sometimes you run into a hot team on the road. It happens.
Right.
But what concerned me more than that were things like, and I hesitate picking on individual players. These are college kids; they're trying. But sometimes guy gets a rebound and he's standing there ready to pass it out to a guard, and the guy comes up behind him and just tips it away from him.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Like you're holding a Fabergé egg.
Yeah.
Like, how come you're not squeezing that? Like,
Yeah.
like it took nothing to tap that away. It just means you're not focused. You're not playing with aggression, and you're not into the game. You're just kind of half-assing it out there. Um, so it's things like that. And then, what really set me off was that Penn State game. So what I'm saying is, Iowa game, as bad as it was, I've seen that before at times. The team gets hot, you can't do anything about it, and you can't make anything. But it was that Penn State game where Penn State would shoot and then release four guys, and one dude was outplaying our entire team on the boards.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about this last time. Maybe we
No,
didn't.
but I mean, you're exactly right, and that's where the text messages came. Not
Yeah,
it was not just your text. You're right. That's the game that I got more reaction
yeah.
than the Rutgers game where he got blown out on the road, and the Iowa game where he got blown out on the road, and then the Illinois game at home. That was there was no shame in that loss.
No, no, we came back.
And
Tyson Walker had the big second half. We came back, showed some heart. At least one
yeah,
guy. But
yeah, yeah,
it was a Penn State game that kind of, I don't want to say broke me, but really got to me. And I don't get that upset with losses anymore like I used to when I was younger. But that game really bummed me out. Just the how Michigan State lost that game. So we have 4 games to go before the Big Ten tournament. We got home against Purdue. Leave it to this team to find a way to win that game somehow. I mean, you
yeah.
can't ever count. I mean, as bleak as it looks, how many times have people counted Izzo out and they figure it out? But this may be his best magic act yet if he can find a way to figure this out. Away against you guys right now, that's looking like a loss. Away at Ohio State's looking like a loss, and then home versus Maryland, which is almost like a must-win. Then so if Michigan State could some magically go 2-2 down the stretch and win a game in the Big Ten tournament, that's that's pretty
I
good, I think.
based on your quad one record thing, all you need is one win. To
Yeah,
be quite honest, it's unlike Michigan, that's not an issue. But I think people, I mean, Michigan State fans, they don't really care about it. That's not the issue with them of worried about making the tournament. It's kind of like Izzo. It's not what wins or losses. It's how they're playing, and they're not playing. A couple things that really bother me about Tuesday night, March 1st. I'm not sandbagging here, but the fact it's March 1st. It's March 1st. What does Izzo do in March? His
yeah.
team wins basketball games. The other thing that disturbs me, and this doesn't affect your team unless it could, that home game in Maryland. Michigan has 3 home games upcoming,
Yeah.
and the students are on spring break. How bad is, including the Michigan State game? I mean, that's the last thing you want, but that's you get the makeup game thrown in there.
I
That's
wasn't
part.
thinking about that. I
Yeah. Oh,
wasn't thinking
I
that.
think about that stuff all the time.
Oh
All
yeah,
the
yeah,
time.
yeah. Of
Yeah.
course you would. And I don't want to switch over to Michigan yet, but and we'll get to Howard and Martelli and all that. A guy like me thinks Martelli's a better coach than Juwan Howard. So I look at this and go, God, you guys are getting rewarded because you got a better X and O coach, and then you get all these home games. I go, you guys are going to get on a little roll here. I go, what kind
No.
of punishment is that? But we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, but so Michigan State, what, where are you at with the program moving forward? Last year, you the last 4 in, and yeah, last 4 in, and it was one of those years. Well, it's hey, we got in, so we dodged the bullet. This year started out, hey, not ranked, got ranked as high as 10th, and now sliding back the other way. Where are you at with this program moving forward? Where do you think it's going to go in the next couple of years?
It's funny because there's a lot of chatter about, oh, is Izzo done? Is he getting too old? Does he need new assistants? Is he, I argue with some of my friends about Izzo a lot. And I'm obviously big time pro Izzo, and how could you not be?
Right, I
But
agree.
yeah, the last 2 years have been real rough and non-Michigan State like. But if you go just past that, they won 3 straight Big Ten titles
Right,
and made a Final Four. And who knows what would have happened with a super hot Cassius Winston Xavier Tillman team their senior year
right. With
last
COVID
year.
hit, yeah,
Uh, I mean, it's easy for me to say because anybody, oh, we would have won the tournament, but they had a shot. They had a real shot
They had a shot.
with the way they were playing.
That's a fair statement.
Right.
I will agree.
So that wasn't that long ago. So I have friends that be like, "Oh, Izzo's hasn't had it going on in 10 years." I'm like, "Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about."
10 years. They
I've
should have had 10 years.
I've had people say this, like friends of mine that are idiots. And it's
Well,
like,
just
"Boy,
they're
you guys,
just uninformed. They don't know.
yeah, what have you done for me today?" kind of a thing. And it's been a rough 2 years. The question is, what is it going to look like going forward? It, you know, Izzo's got to find a way to. They got to recruit better because here's the thing:
Yeah.
all of these guys that we have, like a Malik Hall could lead the team in scoring one game, and sometimes it could be a Max Christie or a Tyson Walker type guy. But these guys are not meant to be ones and twos in terms of the importance of the team. They're like the third or fourth leading scorer,
Well, yeah. So
like
they're quote
normal,
unquote role players, is what you're saying.
a high end role player.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
instead they're forced to be the top guy. So can he find a way to get him? So the question is, are we not recruiting well? Is Michigan State not recruiting well, or they're not developing these players?
Well, you
And I don't know.
think back what you had. Aaron Henry. You had Miles Bridges, Denzel Valentine, Gary Harris. You had a lot of alpha dogs.
Yeah,
On that the opponent would fear.
yeah,
So when I look at Michigan State, there's not or Cassius Winston, obviously. How could I forget him? I mean,
uh-huh.
there isn't that guy that oh, he's going to go off on us. Max Christie maybe at times I think could be that guy,
He
but
will be.
yeah, I'm sure he will.
But the problem is they're being forced into a role that they're not ready for. Like a
Yeah,
Max Christie should be a guy off the bench with
like
a
Caleb
normal.
Houston should be off the bench with Michigan.
Yes,
Yep,
and they're being forced into the starting role that
yep,
they can do well, but you hit the freshman wall and nothing falls,
yep,
and then the defense slacks a little, and now you've got problems, and now they're in a major slump.
yeah.
So I don't know, but here's my question to you: when's the last time you can remember a Michigan State player that will not be first team Big Ten, second team Big Ten? There's a third team Big Ten, right? Third team Big Ten.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't think
so.
Michigan State gets a guy on first, second, or third team.
Well, part of the reason is the Big Ten this year. I mean, when Hunter Dickinson is maybe not even a top 10. Well, he's probably a seventh or eighth best player in the Big Ten, and he's a good player. But it's
No,
just there's a lot of really good players there. But um, there's not a lot of great players, just a lot of really good players, and there's not a lot of great teams. I don't think the Big Ten. I don't even fathom the Big Ten having a Final Four participant. I really don't because it's balanced and it's good.
yeah,
Any team can beat anybody other than Nebraska,
yeah,
pretty much. But it doesn't have it's entertaining if you're not getting too twisted up in it like we all do. But I mean, there's just not a great team
correct.
that's gonna like wow. I got such and such in the Final Four. I don't think there's going to be anybody who's going to take a Big Ten team in the Final Four.
Who's gonna go the furthest?
Well, I mean, maybe Purdue could go the furthest with their two bigs.
I don't play any defense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can poke holes at anything.
Illinois, maybe.
Yeah. Well, look what happened last night at home.
No,
And they lost to Ohio State. And they had a 21-8 lead, and they ended up behind by third. They had a 26-point flip. This is it. I mean, you look at every team in the Big Ten, Steve. It's you can kick the crap out of them in critique
yeah,
at some juncture, no matter how good they are.
yeah,
And with Purdue, you can just blast the program that they haven't been to the Final Four since 1980, and they've never won the national championship. So,
no.
but
I was in fifth grade when they made their last Final Four.
when
Fifth
Lee
grade.
Rose was the coach,
There
and
you
they
go.
had Joe Barry Carroll, who we nicknamed Joe Barely Cares, because he kind of had a little lackadaisical
Yeah,
thing on defense. But he made it in the NBA anyway. So moving forward, yeah, it's Michigan State week. I don't think any of us have a lot of fire in our belly to banter about it. But what do you? Well, let's just you don't have to pick at that. I mean, what do you think? This you said 2-2 would be great. What do you think is going to happen before Michigan State goes to Indy in the Big Ten tournament?
You mean those last 4 games?
Yeah, you got 4 games to go. What do you think? What's your projection? Not your hope, obviously. What's your projection?
My head says 1-3. My heart goes 2-2.
Okay, gotcha.
Find a way against Michigan in Ann Arbor.
And you know, let's be real. I mean, Michigan State typically, Michigan brings the best out of them. Best
Oh yeah,
out of them. I mean, that's just reality. I mean,
yeah.
and I mean, Michigan beat them down there handily the last 2 years, but you know, and last year with no fans in front of them. But I don't know. I see. I don't with Michigan. I don't trust them. It's not, you know, not that they're not capable, but there's just no trust. And I
Right.
think Michigan State's probably in that same category with you.
You go in, you just don't know what to expect. I mean, take a
Yeah.
look at like AJ Hogard. One day he looks like I'm like, this guy's really pretty good. He
Yeah.
does a lot of really good stuff out there. The next game he looks like he's disinterested and doesn't care about any like I'm sure that's not the case. I'm just saying it's what it appears to a fan. And it's the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde. I'm like, I don't understand how one game you can be one way, the next game it's crazy.
Right.
I can't predict this team. This is a team I don't have a handle on at all compared to all the teams I've ever watched from Michigan State
Oh,
rival. I have no idea who's going to be the leader in
I can
scoring,
see that.
who's going to
Yeah.
play well. It's a complete crapshoot every game.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Tyson Walker after the Purdue game.
Right.
I mean, it was like, oh my God, this guy's the guy. Blah 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 blah. You know, what
Yeah,
happened? And what did he do against
when
Iowa?
when Tyson Walker brought us back against Illinois, we're like, hey, we might
Yeah.
have found something here. Like,
Yeah.
let's start
Yeah.
looking for a shot. And
Yeah.
then against Iowa, he's afraid to shoot.
I know.
I
I
know
know.
they were overplaying him. I understand that, but hey, force it. I would rather you force it after that last game than someone else than Gabe Brown get a wide open three.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No question about it. Okay, let's segue over to the University of Michigan. Tell you what, I've never recall a local event, a local discussion topic, this Michigan situation up in Madison that polarized everybody, almost like it's you know, Trump versus Biden thing.
yeah, it was like a political
It
thing.
was like a political thing, and there was no and it's almost like, you know, and it was almost, and then there were some national people who I went through a lot of national people that thought the and you're going to disagree with this, but thought the penalty was, everything was appropriate, but they thought that Greg Gard, $10,000 where the school scoffed at it and paid it for him was ridiculous, and countless were in that category. But I mean, I know you're dug in on your end, I'm dug in on my end, but you know, give us your feel of it. I'll let you go at it, and but I don't want to spend any more energy. You're not going to convince me, and I'm not going to convince you. So, but just give it. Here's your platform. Give your opinion.
I'm arrogant enough to think I could still convince you, even though it's impossible. I'm like, but I have all the facts on my side. I can convince you if you are willing to be convinced.
I got.
If you are willing to the openness of my argument, unless
I
you're
will.
setting up a wall.
Yeah, I got to say this though. You brought up a very valid point, and um you quoted Mike Valeni, a good friend of mine, who he came up with this with Jack and I as a producer, and he's off the races. He referenced on his show, very popular, one of the most popular local sports talk radio shows in the entire country. I'm talking about Mike Valeni and with Rico Beard, about Michigan being a cult, and I found that, you know, I really pondered that for a while, and you know what, sports is in intercollegiate athletics and the fan bases and in pros for that matter, that's what it is. It's a cult. It's a, you know, it's a sports cult. You believe in, you're buying in. and this is a narrative. We're all together, and that's kind of what it is. And so, I mean, I thought it was, Michigan State's a cult to me. Michigan State is a two-pronged cult when it comes to Michigan. They love Michigan State. Michigan State people love the Spartans. They're really into it, and they also hate Michigan. It's a two-pronged cult. It's a uniformed hate Michigan, pro Michigan State. That's cult-like. So to address that cult reference, right? Sports is a cult. So I agree with Mike Maloney in that regard.
So do you want my take on the fight?
Go ahead.
Okay. There's a track record now with Juwan. If this was an isolated incident, maybe you would have a point on some of these things. But this is at least the third time in the last 12 months where either something happened or something almost happened. You've got Maryland, you've got the Rutgers game, and now you have the Wisconsin game. So there's a pattern here. Juwan, when they're losing,
can you explain the Rutgers game to the fans who might not be, was that with Juwan or was that with players?
I believe I know there were players involved because
I don't remember and that was a video that was circulating.
Yes,
that
there was a little brouhaha in the handshake line where people were getting heated and there's some pushing around and
I didn't see Juwan Howard's involvement with that from that distant video view, which was like literally in the upper bowl.
Right. But my point is there's a tone that's being set. It starts at the top. We all know this. Okay. We used to work for a company. When we worked together, the tone was set at the top by the top guy at our company, right? And that tone worked its way down. Leadership comes from top down. So this is a third incident, at least, and you could add on a few more. There's about a Michigan State thing.
Michigan State thing.
Yeah, a little, barking at the team and things like that. And
when was that?
So let me get to my point. There's no reason for Juwan to be upset at Greg Gard for calling that timeout, which is what he said in the postgame press conference. That's why he was mad.
Yeah.
If you leave your starters in when the other team empties the bench and puts their walk-ons in with under a minute to go, I'm not saying you have to back off if you are on defense. Ideally, that's normally what happens. There seems like there's like a courtesy almost, like a, hey, we're emptying the bench. Either you empty the bench or you back off. Okay.
I know how it works. Yeah.
But if you want to argue that, I'll accept that.
I'm not arguing that. I don't argue anything. I don't argue anything you're saying. And the only thing I argue about, Juwan was wrong, absolutely wrong.
But his reason for being upset was wrong. It didn't even make sense.
Absolutely. But my point, the only thing I argued with you the other day when I was cleaning up the dog manure and I had you on speakerphone in the backyard was solely this. Greg Gard grabbed him and forced the issue. Now, I know you said, I know, he could have taught, I said, well, he was just doing that. You just roll with that. You go down the cool down period. And then Joe Kravinoff coming in there, flying in like a free safety and pushing two of Michigan's players right in front of their coach. And no effing penalty for that dude. That's the only thing I had. Juwan Howard, I thought he was going to be kicked off for the rest of the season. And I actually would have gone along with that. That has nothing he is totally in the wrong. That wasn't any of my issues. It was that Wisconsin went total hands-free, no accountability, nothing to see here. We did absolutely wrong, which was total bullshit.
Okay. If you want to argue Kravinoff, that's fine. I'll give you that. But this idea of Greg Gard somehow accosting Juwan Howard in a handshake line, how dare you touch me? Oh my God, what drama queen there. He only did it because Juwan was so mad. He pulled his mask off and said, I'm going to remember this. And Greg Gard was so taken aback by it. He was like trying to explain himself. He wasn't showing him up.
Yep.
He was, and so there's no way that he could have known that Juwan would have gone postal after he, as you say, grabbed, I say gently, tried to stop him to explain himself. There was no bad intent there. And
But you don't.
Juwan, because he's already in a pissy mood, then goes off on it, and then it gets heated, and then that led to crabbing off.
Well, I
And
mean,
it's
there's also talk about etiquette when you're doing the Tom Crean blow by. The Tom Crean, which they should actually name that the Tom Crean blow by, because I've never seen a more uh, lack of sincerity from a coach in a line, especially with even the really who does not like John Beeline? I mean, he would go by John Beeline and look the other way. I'm like, who are you? You
yeah,
know, I mean, and then so much I gleefully am glad he's about ready to get whacked at Georgia. Snicker, snicker. That will be a wonderful day. But
that guy's
that
bad.
all being said, I understand what you're saying. That about I yeah, I mean if I was Juwan, I wouldn't have blown up like that but I'm not wired. I'm not an alpha dog like him either.
You weren't raised by Chicago.
Well, listen, I'm not. No, I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not tagging Chicago. I'm not tagging the South Side of Chicago or any neighborhoods or anything
Well, that's
like
his
that.
reason. That was his reasoning before with Rutgers. Well, I was
What?
raised by
Oh,
Chicago.
that was the Maryland. I thought that was the
The
Maryland.
Maryland. I mean, that was the Maryland. I
Yeah,
was
the
raised
the
by
the
Chicago. Oh,
Turgeon
okay.
thing. The
Well,
Turgeon thing.
why didn't you say so? I guess that
Which
explains it
actually,
now.
once again, another party, an assistant coach at Maryland was one that cited that one. That you can't react to that. I totally agree with you. I think he's going to learn. I really do. I think Juwan now. I was disappointed in the post game. I really was that he did not address the any remorse. I mean, even if I was really angry, I think in the span and there's a cool down period. I mean, we don't
Yeah,
when I'm on the Michigan side of things. You don't get to Juwan is at least for 20 minutes after the game, at least. We start with players, and so that should be enough cool down period to register in
yeah.
your mind acknowledgement that you at least perhaps exercise poor judgment.
But Juwan's brand is defiance. That's his brand.
But yeah, and then
You
the other
disrespected us. You disrespected us, and I'm going to hold it against you. It's always about I'm being disrespected somehow, and therefore I'm very angry and I'm irate, and I'm going to let you know about it. It's defiance. That is his brand, and
well,
that's
what
what gets him in
another thing
trouble.
that bothered me. I mean, I don't think it's like so the prepared statement comes out, and and I'm bringing this stuff up, and this is my team,
Yeah,
so um, that he misspelled. It was his name is Joe, not Joel. I mean, it was spelled Joel, Joel
yeah,
on the release, and that's going across the scroll in the Big Ten Network because that was what they were handed
yeah.
from the
He
University of
didn't
Michigan.
write it. Come on,
Well,
that's not him
my
writing
point
it.
is this. My point is this. This is where little things like that bother me.
That's a weird thing to focus on. I got to tell you.
Well, no, I mean, because I'm proud of my school for this professionalism, and
And you're a PR guy.
I'm a PR guy,
You need
and
to write press releases
you
when
give
we
me a
work
you give
together.
me you give me a good proofreader, and I can rule the world. And
Yeah.
they need it. I'm not. I don't know if who it
Shout out
was.
Nancy. Shout out Nancy Jacobs.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got through that. The Phil Martelli thing, and I think I sent you that clip. I mean, you're right. Phil Martelli, is gold for the University of Michigan right now. He's a Hall of Fame coach. Naismith, Hall of Famer. He's National Coach of the Year 2004. From Philly, St. Joe and
Yeah.
all that stuff. He played college basketball at the D3 level in Western or in Eastern PA. It's a great story, as he said. It's a story. But I tell you what really impressed me about he gave all, and probably justifiably, he gave all the credit to his assistants. Sadi Washington. I
Yeah.
mean,
I thought,
yeah, you saw that in it's in
Mark.
Howard Isley, and that's the kind of I love seeing that. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I have no
Juwan does that
trouble.
too, but I mean, it just really jumped at me.
I I gotta kind of watch how I say this because it could be misinterpreted. But I think Phil Martelli is a significant. Significant, is that the right word? He's an upgrade. Let me strike the word significant. He is an upgrade X and O from what I can tell. And granted, what these guys forget is more than I've ever known, right? And it's just because Juwan hasn't coached for long.
But he's
You know what
coached
I'm
at
saying?
well, yeah, but I don't see. I'm not smart enough to decipher that because
Well,
it's like
I'm just saying common sense. Common sense is Phil Martelli, who's coached for a million years, well respected. You never hear anybody, as far as his coaching acumen, people rave about Phil Martelli. They always
yeah,
have, right? He
right,
took a team to Elite Eight, a
right,
St. Joe team. He took a team to Sweet
yeah,
16
right.
at St. Joe. So he is well respected. Juwan had the celebrity. He had the I can bring in people. I've got the pizzazz type of thing. And the idea was he would get good over time, but he was never a head coach before he started there. Getting Phil Martelli was the greatest move
At the
that
collegiate level, because he's had. I mean, he played 19 years in the NBA, and he coached. He's got 2 rings. He's coached on um, NBA. On an NBA championship team. I mean, it's like, but and I don't know. I'm not in practice. I don't know the X's and the O's of who does what. I learned the other day. That our defensive coordinator is Saudi Washington. Howard Isley, he's our offensive coordinator. Howard's calling all the plays, blah, 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 blah. It's like it's easy for us, and I'm doing the same thing as you do. I'm trying to surmise who does what.
yeah,
It's just like with Josh Gaddis and Jim Harbaugh, who's calling the plays. I mean, we don't, unless we are inside the walls,
yeah.
we're speculating.
I'm relying on common sense. I'm relying on I couldn't break down tape with these guys. You couldn't, I couldn't,
No,
most people
no,
couldn't.
hell no, no,
Okay.
not
Of
even,
course
not
not.
even close.
But what I'm saying is common sense. A guy who's coached forever, who's had success at multiple different teams. Not like he had one team that at St. Joe that did well and then not much else. He had several teams that advanced in the tournament. Um, Common sense says he's a better X and O coach than Juwan right now. And what my point was when Phil Martelli, when you guys signed him, I went, oh, he is going to fix a lot of problems that from the bench, Phil Martelli,
Oh, it's a
until
great
Juwan
transition.
grows
Yeah.
into this role.
Yep. Transition. It was
Yeah,
almost like a liaison. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly what he
yeah.
is.
So you guys aren't going to drop off at all. The big thing was the Rutgers game because you lost Diabate, and you still won the game, which pisses me off because that's the game you guys should have lost. But I
Right.
knew you know what happens though. It's like when a team has a couple injuries,
Yeah,
uh,
galvanize.
and the other team sort of relaxes a little bit.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't have that focus somehow. I knew Rutgers was going to go in and gag that game away. They could beat anyone else, but all of a sudden a shorthanded Michigan team, I knew they were going to blow it. I just knew it.
Well, they came together, and there's a lot of times you can have an emotional thing galvanize a team. I mean, evidently, this text that Juwan sent, the players kept referencing that. He was at home. I had some cynics say, "Oh, he's there. He's there." No, he wasn't there. Once again, people saying things they don't know. But that's just human nature. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I still think the Illinois game, especially Illinois coming off this loss to Ohio State, will be that'll be a tougher hurdle than beating Rutgers, even with the 2 guys back.
Yeah, and coming off the loss too is
Yeah, that's
you,
what I
you
mean. It's
never
gonna be
want that.
hard. It's gonna be hard. And then Michigan State, is that that bring that's a wild card. And then Iowa, good Lord, Michigan beat Iowa and Iowa City. But if Iowa plays like they did against Michigan State,
Please, on the road, give me a break.
and then at Ohio State will be incredibly daunting. I can't imagine how abusive that crowd will be. Um, but they won't be able to pick on Phil or to Juwan Howard because he'll still be gone. But what's really going to be interesting as we close this podcast, can you imagine if Michigan played Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament?
Oh,
Because
oh,
Juwan will be back then. Can
right.
you imagine that? I mean, that would be, people would just go there to say that they were there.
They would, you know what would happen is Juwan and Greg Gard would have a love fest before the opening tip to try to diffuse the situation. And if I'm Greg Gard, I go, nope. I'll shake your hand after the game because I don't want that to try to diffuse it with the fans. You know what I mean? I'd be like, you're still going to be public enemy number one. I'm going to do
Well,
a quick handshake. Good luck today. And Juwan's going to want to be all cuddly.
but I don't know who says Juwan want to be kind of cuddly. We don't know that. I mean, I will say this though, and I've been to several Big Ten tournaments. Uh, Michigan is like the evil empire when they get booed all the time. You've heard about this video when they used to do all the fight songs and all the fan bases would sing the fight songs up on the big jumbotron and everybody would laugh and cheer, all the fans cheering the fight song. Then when the Michigan people would come on there to sing the victors, you get 18,000 fans at Bankers Life. Boo! I mean, it was like Russia versus the United States. I mean, it was crazy. The people hate Michigan, which is why we see so many shirts, Michigan versus everyone, because it's almost like everybody hates us. Why is that?
Why do you think?
Why is that? Why is that?
Why do you think that's the case?
I asked you the question. I have no answer for that.
Oh, arrogance. I mean, there's got to be a reason, right? We're not just doing it for
I don't know.
arrogance. And you got Michigan State, who normally travels well to the Big Ten tournament. So you're going to have all the green and white fans booing. And then the Ohio State fans are going to be all over that too. So you got two natural enemies right there. And then everyone else goes, yeah, I want to be a part of this party. So they're going to join in too.
Oh, it's going to be a mob mentality. It's almost to the point that I'll probably go to the Big Ten tournament, but it's like, I just don't need another reason to be angry,
You don't come on, bring it on, baby.
All right, Steve. We broke a Crawford Podcasting Network record here on the Ad Man and Tom in terms of total minutes. We're at 37 minutes.
I'm just getting warmed up. Let's go.
Because there's just too much good content to exchange. You did a masterful job. I commend you for that. And
did I convince you? Did I convince you that Greg Gard did nothing wrong?
You didn't convince me. No, you're not going to convince me. Not on the Wisconsin side. I mean,
give me 5 more minutes.
No, it's not happening. Anyway, have a tremendous weekend. Good luck for the Spartans against Purdue. You're going to need it because Purdue's pretty good basketball team right now. But you know what? Purdue's won 3 in a row. These things there's a timing element. They're due. Purdue is due.
They're due for a loss.
They're due for a loss.
Yeah, and my team is just maddening enough to find a way to beat them.
And it could happen tomorrow noon at the Breslin Center. Until next time, the Ad Man and Tom on the Crawford Podcasting Network. Great job, Stevie.
Go Green Tom.
See ya.